Forward. On my last reading of these Malay sketches by Alfian, before attempting this forward, an absurd thought slowly formed in my mind. What if I am called upon to bear witness to the existence of these characters in the pages that follow? That is, to testify if these characters had any basis in reality, or if they were mere constructions born out of an isolated creative writing process. Amusing myself, I began to replace some of the characters' names with real-life names and could see, in these stories, real people. Persons I know who had gone through situations and experiences similar to the characters. Some characters could even fit multiple real-life persons. Here, I want to add that I do not take the term witness lightly. Bearing witness is an act of conscience. I wasn't sure who the judge sitting in my head was supposed to be, to whom I was trying to attest the veracity of these characters and their stories. In the end, I was left with a sense of guilt that I had yet to attempt writing the kind of stories as Alfian has written, sketches, portraits that could expand another person's field of vision or deepen his or her regard for a community. The circumstances of the making of this volume of Malay sketches deserve mention. Malay writing and publishing output in Singapore were especially prolific between the 19th and first half of the 20th centuries. One of the more interesting details found in the covers of publications from this period was the exact conditions of when and where these writings were produced. Such information was sometimes added posthumously to later editions of these publications. These brief biographical sketches of the writers or publishers provide a reader, even one reading a few decades or a century later, a deeper understanding of the society, the writer's milieu of that moment, and a more holistic appreciation of the work. Back to the making. I recall one night after a meeting, Alfian decided to come back to my place at Perumal Road to hang out and continue our conversations. This evolved into an extended stay, which we jokingly called a residency. This was a reference to the fact that my house, in its previous incarnation, had served as an art space which had a regular residency program and which used to host various tenants. Alfian's residency took place over a few months in two halves, broken by a period of him going across the Tebrau Straits. In my mind, this mirrored the changing landscape of the stories in this book. For this residency, he had decided to use a spare bedroom in my house to write. This he did furiously and intensively. My partner, the third person in the house, and I bore witness to a friend at work. In between bouts of furious and intensive writing, there were the kitchen conversations where we would talk about this and that, in the course of which we would bounce ideas around. Sometimes I would come out of my room ranting about a new story I had come across or raving about a nugget of information I had unearthed from my web crawling. And I do spend a lot of time excavating the borderless, bottomless internet. Some of them I suggested as story ideas to Alfian. Other times he would blah, 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 and we would discuss the underlying issues, get into squabbles, or similarly sink into quiet, reflective moments. Occasionally, we would imagine wildly, coming up with concepts for musicals. After these shared times and exchanges, we would enter separate rooms, back to writing for him and back to reading for me. From the outset, Alfian had always intended to write the sketches as ultra-short pieces. This meant that after a writing spurt, whatever he produced was almost immediately put up online for his Facebook friends to read. This process was repeated: inside room, write; outside room, talk; back to room, write; then online publishing. It wasn't all that regimented, as the regular organization of hours into day and night was often ignored. Moreover, we sometimes continued conversations when we had returned to our rooms, that is, as online chats that were occasionally punctuated by either or both of us coming out of the room to laugh or exclaim face to face. I was rather amused by all this while observing his other habits, as he probably did mine. There were times when I felt that maybe this was how it was in the heyday of Malay writing and publishing, albeit not in one's private domicile, rather at an office of sorts. This was an office with friends or like-minded individuals at work, creating different forms of writing
Sample complete. Ready to continue?